Alright guys, I'm up in the parts bin attic, and I think it's time for another bike build. So let's see what we can find. Alright, so here are our choices. We have a full frame suspension bike. That one still is actually functional as a bike, so I kind of want to keep that one. We have a kids 20-inch BMX bike, not much room, and done that before. Then we have the very small little kids bike, and then we have this carcass of a bike here, which I would not feel bad about cutting up at all, because I have already parted out most things from it. So between that and the steel frame, I think this is our candidate here. Alright, so here's our bike that we're going to use. Looks like we got another old Murray. My favorite. These things are actually pretty sturdy and cheap, and by cheap I mean free, which is the best price. So yeah, I think I'm just going to strip it down to the frame, and then we'll go from there and see where we're going to be cutting and welding. And up here, zoom in here, that Briggs 5-horse is the power plant we are going to be using. Alright, so we got all our parts off the bike, so we are down to just the frame and the fork now. And now we can see I just have the engine propped up on 2x4s there, just to kind of get the right height, but now we can see where we need to start cutting and extending the frame. So first off, this top bar, that's obviously going to have to go, and we're going to have to flip it or find another bar that goes from here over to there. That'll give us the height we need. And then for the bottom, depending on how far back the wheel goes, we're going to have to cut and notch and bend this down, and then we're also going to have to add length here, because right now the plan is to have a CVT, like torque converter style setup, so that's going to go back to here, and we also have to have room for our slide carburetor and our exhaust back here. So we're probably going to need, oh, and the jack shaft. Yeah, probably going to need an extra 8 to 10 inches behind this engine. So, first thing I'm going to do is cut off that top bar, and then we'll look at it again and see what we can find for scrap metal to make this bike longer. And there's one cut, and two cuts. Alright, there we go. Lots more room. Bingo. So, right here, if we cut out those two middle bars on this Fisher-Price bike, I think that will be just the right amount of length that we need to add to our cruiser. Alright, so I was just checking these with the calipers. You can see this is about 25.5 millimeters there for the diameter. And then this one we got same. And then right here, this little kid's bike is actually the same on the top tube and the bottom tube. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's 28 and change. So yeah, this is actually a thicker round tube than than this full-size adult bike, which is kind of funny. So long story short, this is definitely going to be strong enough to hold up to the weight of the bigger bike. So I'll go ahead and cut out those two middle bars. Alright, we got our two bars cut off, and as you can see, the wall thickness is a little thinner on these, but it's really close. It's not going to make a big enough difference. At least I don't think so. So yeah, we got our frame extensions ready to go there, and then we'll reuse this bar on the top as well. And what's actually funny is bearings and whatnot. See if I can do this without getting cut. Yeah, like this bike was actually in way better shape than that one, but yeah, obviously not going to fit a motor on this. Anyway, moving on. So I went ahead and cut the bottom bar on the black bike here, and then we just kind of zoom out here. We got the Fisher Price in between there, and that kind of gives us an idea of where this is going to line up. That's just mocked up for the time being. And then this is two pieces, so I can't hold it up with one hand, but basically you're going to have this over top, and then it's going to meet up at that bar. So that gives us a lot of room for the engine. There is going to be quite a bit of wasted space in like this area, but I still can notch this part out and then get more of a curve if I want to. I'm not sure if I'm going to though, because this is kind of working, but I don't know, I might want a little more rake on that front fork. Obviously this isn't going to have pedals anymore. This is just going to be strictly a motor situation. So I don't really have to worry about keeping clearance for the pedals. My big concern is just going to be if I want to put the jack shaft on this side or if it's going to be on this side, and how much room I have with the rear wheel. So I guess next step is to bolt some wheels on this and just kind of line it up, tack weld it, and just kind of eyeball it and see what looks good and what has room for the motor. So it's a new day. I've been working on changing the angle here of the front part of this bike so there isn't as much wasted space. Basically I'm just notching it like that and then welding it in. I already did this side. Not the prettiest of welds, but that'll get sanded down and re-welded later. Just trying to get the best angle here so this bottom part is flat once it's sitting up about 1.5 inches, which should line up with this hole and then that tubing. So I'm going to go ahead and weld up these cuts now. Alright, there we go. Got all these welds done. And now we have a flat surface, relatively speaking, to mount that engine on. Now up here I did one pie cut. See if I can get this in focus. Maybe. Anyway, up here I did one pie cut and welded it in. And down here I did a bunch of lines, just trying some different types out. It just melted the little wedges in between the lines when I welded it, so I had to weld the whole thing anyway. So if I had to do it again, I think I'd just do a pie cut. But anyway, it's looking pretty decent. That'll all get cleaned up. These little pieces here I'll get cut off and cleaned up as well. But yeah, made some serious progress today. Alright, we have our top bar welded up. This is just tacked in for the time being. And yeah, lots of room for activities here. It's going to be pretty awesome. So down here it didn't line up perfect, so I just cut a little pie to fill in that gap. So now that the pie wedge is in there, I'll just go ahead and weld up the seams. Alright, there we go. We got everything welded up. Everything wire brushed down. This thing is starting to look pretty dang awesome. Got the motor just sitting there on a couple of 2x4s just to give you guys an idea of what it's going to look like. I'm still thinking I'm going to have to add some bracing from here to here and maybe here to here. But, I mean, this frame is really rigid, a lot more rigid than I thought it would be. It is looking awesome. I think a lot of the reasons why it's rigid is because I chose to follow this line and meet it up with these two ends of the rear forks. And that's really going to help with the structural rigidity because all the load from the front is being pushed to the back wheel. Anyway, yeah, that's it for today, but this thing's looking awesome. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I hope you liked the video. This is going to be an ongoing series, this Briggs build, so if you want to see the rest of it, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. I'll see you guys next time.